There is a war more treacherous than any fought with bullets, a war that begins the moment you open your eyes and does not end until the final hour of your life. It is not waged in the battlefield of nations, but in the silence of your thoughts. It is the war for mastery not over others, but over yourself. And let me tell you this truth plainly, for only the serious-minded will understand it. You will never rise above your circumstances until you rise above your impulses. You will never command a fortune until you command your emotions. You will never walk among the powerful until you master the voice within. This is the law, immutable, uncompromising, unforgiving to the weak and undecided. The man who trains his mind as if he were already a millionaire does not merely accumulate wealth. He attracts power, influence, and peace of mind because he has subdued the most unruly force in existence, his own undisciplined thought. What is the difference between a man who earns in millions and one who struggles from week to week? Is it luck? No. Circumstance? Only in the short term. Education? Not always. It is thinking, deliberate, clear, emotionally detached thinking. The millionaire trains his mind to respond, not react. He cultivates calm where others combust. He focuses on results while others get distracted by resentment. Train your mind as if you were a millionaire, not for the sake of vanity or luxury, but for the sake of power. Not power over others, but power over self. For he who rules his own mind needs no crown, no applause, no permission. And yet most men are enslaved by their feelings. They confuse reaction with action, confusion with thinking, and drama with purpose. They let anger push them, fear freeze them, and doubt paralyze them. Their minds are ruled by the tyranny of every petty emotion, and then they wonder why life does not bend to their desires. But the truth is this: the outer world is a mirror of the inner condition. If the mirror is cracked, what you see will be broken. If your thoughts are scattered, so too will your results be. If your emotions are your master, your life will be your punishment. Understand this principle deeply. Emotion is a servant. Thought is the master. When you reverse that order, you fall into chaos. The average man reacts, the extraordinary man responds, the average man fights battles on the outside, the wise man wins them on the inside before the world even knows he was in a war. You must come to know the power of emotional detachment, not as coldness, but as strength, not as indifference, but as discipline. The emotionally detached man is not passive, he is precise. He does not rage at the storm, he calculates how to harness its winds. To train your mind like a millionaire, you must first understand the law of emotional economy. Every emotional outburst is a theft from your future. Every unnecessary reaction is a leak in the reservoir of your focus. Every moment you spend explaining yourself to someone who misunderstands you is a moment you've abandoned your mission. The millionaire does not chase approval, he commands clarity. He does not explain his vision to those who cannot see. He does not waste his mental capital on argument, resentment, or revenge. And why? Because he knows that energy, not time, is the true currency of achievement. Let me ask you a question, not to flatter you, but to confront you. Do you own your mind, or does it own you? Can you remain still while others panic? Can you think accurately when others gossip? Can you execute your plan without applause, without permission, and without emotional compensation? If you cannot, then you are not free. You may walk free, you may speak freely, but your mind is still shackled. And no man builds an empire from a prison cell of mental chaos. You must become the commander of your own thought. You must build emotional detachment not as a wall, but as a filter to protect the temple of your purpose from the noise of the world. There will always be critics, there will always be tests, there will always be days when your emotions scream louder than your logic, but you must not answer the scream. You must respond to the truth, and the truth is this: your results will never exceed your level of mental discipline. The man who trains his mind to ignore distraction gains time. The man who trains his mind to silence doubt gains energy. The man who trains his mind to act without needing reassurance becomes unshakable. Let us now enter the deeper waters of this principle, for I am not here to entertain you with cliches. I am here to arm you with the laws of achievement so that you may apply them and rise. First, understand the law of mental neutrality. Success does not come to the one who feels the most, it comes to the one who thinks the clearest. The great generals of thought, the true builders of wealth and influence, are not emotionally numb, but they are emotionally neutral when it matters. They know when to feel and when to think, when to speak and when to remain silent, when to engage and when to withdraw. Mental neutrality means you can see the facts without being blinded by the feelings. It means you can receive criticism without collapsing. It means you can face betrayal without bitterness, delay without discouragement, and uncertainty without hysteria. It is neutrality, not numbness, that gives you vision. Then comes the principle of thought first. Before you act, think. Before you speak, pause. Before you feel, observe. Before you decide, detach. Thought first. Always thought first. Reaction is the language of the weak. Response is the weapon of the strong. The man who trains himself to insert thought between impulse and action will outlive, outgrow, and outperform his emotionally reactive peers. He will win not because he is louder, but because he is clearer. And that clarity? It is the offspring of emotional discipline. Next, you must understand definiteness of purpose, the cardinal law of success. No man ever became a millionaire by accident. He may inherit wealth, he may stumble upon luck, but he cannot hold or grow it without purpose. Purpose is the spine of every empire. Purpose gives emotion its rightful job to serve the mission, not sabotage it. A man with purpose does not entertain every invitation. He does not explain his every move. He does not react to every insult, nor chase every trend. Why? Because his inner world is governed by a vision, disciplined by a code, fueled by a goal so clear that even failure becomes fuel. You want to rise? Then you must choose your emotional investments the way a banker chooses his loans, with caution, with calculation, and with the confidence that not every borrower is worth your energy. Let us now speak of autosuggestion, the silent governor of your subconscious. You become what you continually tell yourself. Every thought you repeat becomes a groove in the mind, and those grooves become tracks on which your destiny rides. Repeat anger, and you wire yourself for rage. Repeat doubt, and you program yourself for hesitation. Repeat purpose, and you forge a mind that moves mountains. The millionaire mind is not only trained, it is programmed. It is not only aware, it is intentional. Each day, it feeds itself the thoughts that forge power, peace, and clarity. Do not underestimate the whispers you send to yourself. Your subconscious listens when no one else does. Train it, instruct it, dominate it, or be dominated by it. And what of self-discipline, the most unglamorous yet most profitable of all virtues? Discipline is the ability to command yourself even when no one is watching. It is the art of doing what is required without needing motivation. It is the foundation on which all greatness rests. Discipline silences distraction. Discipline defeats delay. Discipline makes detachment possible because it teaches you to obey principle over impulse. Discipline is not punishment. It is freedom. The freedom to act without emotion. The freedom to think without noise. The freedom to build without the need to be seen. A millionaire's discipline is not in how he handles wealth. It is in how he handles his inner world, for that is what determines whether he builds a kingdom or squanders a fortune. And what of accurate thinking, the final tool in your arsenal of mental mastery? Accurate thinking is the refusal to accept lies, especially the ones you tell yourself. It is the relentless pursuit of truth, even when it wounds your ego. It is the ability to separate fact from feeling, principle from opinion, truth from trend. Emotion clouds judgment. Accurate thinking clears the fog. The man who thinks accurately does not react to headlines, hearsay, or hype. He studies, he questions, he verifies, he builds on rock, not sand. And that rock? It is emotional detachment, for only a calm mind can see clearly. And so I say to you again, train your mind as if you were a millionaire. Not for the sake of fortune, but for the sake of mastery. For in truth, the man who commands himself needs no one to rescue him. He becomes his own economy, his own fortress, his own unstoppable force of achievement. He becomes his own economy, his own fortress, his own unstoppable force of achievement. He no longer asks, "Will they believe in me?" because he has trained his inner world to move with or without witnesses. He does not shrink in the face of resistance, for he has studied resistance, mastered it, and made it his servant. He understands that doubt is the tax paid by every man who dares to lead himself. You must become such a man, not later, now. Not when it's convenient, but especially when it's not. You must train your mind with the same urgency a drowning man has for air, because every day you delay, the weeds of emotional reactivity grow deeper in the soil of your mind. The moment you resolve to rule your emotions, they will rebel. They will tempt you. They will deceive you. They will whisper in the voice of reason, but carry the sting of sabotage. That is their nature, not because emotions are evil, but because they are meant to be felt, not followed. They are signals, not commands. They are indicators, not leaders. And let me remind you, if you follow emotion without discipline, you will become a slave to mood and a stranger to mastery. But the man who pauses, the man who observes before he reacts, that man is rare. That man is dangerous. That man is free. You do not need to raise your voice to raise your value. You do not need to prove your worth to those who cannot see. You must, however, prove your resolve to yourself, to your habits, to your inner world. This is the hidden advantage of the emotionally detached man. He suffers, but he does not flinch. He's misunderstood, but he does not shrink. He's opposed, but he does not react. And why? Because he knows that reaction is the proof of immaturity. He knows that stillness is strength disguised as silence. He knows that calmness is not weakness, it is wisdom dressed in armor. Consider for a moment the lives of men who built empires, not just businesses, but philosophies, systems, revolutions. Every single one of them mastered emotional detachment. Why? Because emotion clouds vision, and without vision, you perish. Let me repeat that. Without vision, you perish not in body, but in direction. What is a ship without a compass? A man without mental discipline? What is a king without a throne of order, a mind ruled by impulse? Detachment is not the absence of care, it is the presence of power. It is the ability to choose your response instead of being pulled like a puppet by every passing feeling. The man who learns to detach can listen to criticism without losing his confidence. He can walk through uncertainty without begging for guarantees. He can outlast the impatient, outthink the reactive, and outmaneuver the emotional. And here is the divine irony of power. The more you need nothing, the more the world offers you everything. The less you chase, the more you attract. The more you control yourself, the less others can control you. This is why the man who trains his mind like a millionaire often becomes one, because the mindset comes before the money, not after. Let us now speak of emotional energy allocation, a law few recognize, but every high achiever obeys. Every moment of emotional engagement is a deposit or withdrawal. If you invest in worry, you lose energy. If you deposit in complaint, you bankrupt your momentum. But if you invest in clarity, detachment, and self-command, you compound returns in focus, action, and elevation. It is not burnout that destroys most men, it is misallocation. They give their finest attention to their worst distractions. They surrender their best thinking to the worst opinions. They invest their peace in battles that will never pay them back. This is not weakness, it is ignorance, and it is fatal to achievement. The millionaire mind is trained in emotional triage. It does not panic in the face of noise. It does not rush to explain. It does not fight battles that do not serve the kingdom. Now, let us study the art of strategic silence, for silence is a sword only the disciplined can wield. You do not owe your reactions to the world. You do not need to attend every emotional invitation. You do not need to correct the fool, explain to the blind, or justify your vision to those who cannot imagine. There is more power in a pause than in 100 words, more influence in presence than in persuasion, and more elevation in silence than in self-defense. The man who holds his peace when he could erupt commands respect not through fear but through mystery, and mystery, when built upon discipline, becomes influence. When you speak less, your words weigh more. When you react less, your presence speaks louder. When you feel everything but act only on principle, you become ungovernable. Now understand this law. He who governs his mind governs his life. Governance requires a constitution, a code of principles higher than momentary emotion. And let me tell you, your code must be written before the battle begins. For in the heat of emotion, your memory fails, but your principles remain. If you do not create laws for your inner world, chaos will reign. If you do not define what matters, emotion will decide for you. If you do not choose your standard, you will live by someone else's feelings. The man who trains his mind writes laws on the tablet of his soul, laws that say, I do not explain myself where I am not understood. I do not chase applause, I chase execution. I do not fight to be right, I fight to remain aligned. I do not let others dictate my state. I do not invest emotion where there is no return. He becomes immune to offense, not because he is arrogant, but because he is anchored. And that anchor? It is self-governance. He is unmoved by petty insults because he has a mountain to climb. He is undisturbed by silence because he is busy building. He is unshaken by doubt because he is committed to the laws of mastery. Now hear this truth and let it pierce your soul. You are not owed clarity, peace, or success. You must become the man who commands them. And you cannot command them if you are ruled by moods, emotions, and untrained reactions. The millionaire mind is not only calm, it is calculated. Not only disciplined, but detached. Not only focused, but ruthless with distraction. And when I say ruthless, I do not mean cruel. I mean intentional. I mean unwilling to negotiate with weakness. Unwilling to argue with mediocrity, unwilling to dilute purpose with the poison of emotional reaction. Let the undisciplined rage, let the weak explain, let the distracted chase. You must train. Train your thought like a sword. Sharpen your focus like steel. Guard your peace like a fortress. And walk through this world as a man already crowned, not because others see it, but because you've earned it inwardly. You must learn to walk away not out of pride, but out of purpose. To detach not out of coldness, but out of control. To let go not out of defeat, but out of design. Because every emotional entanglement you avoid is one more step toward sovereignty. And when you live sovereign in your mind, the world cannot enslave your body. When you live sovereign in your emotions, the world cannot disturb your peace. When you live sovereign in your focus, the world cannot distract your destiny. That is the final prize of mental mastery, unshakable sovereignty. Not the kind that shouts, the kind that moves in silence and builds empires brick by brick, thought by thought, principle by principle. So I ask you now, will you continue to train like a victim of your moods? Or will you rise deliberately, silently, powerfully, as one who owns himself? Train your mind as if you were already a millionaire, because in truth you are. If you command your thoughts, if you own your emotions, if you rule your reactions, you already hold the most valuable asset in existence, the mastery of self. You already hold the most valuable asset in existence, the mastery of self. It is not what you earn that makes you powerful, it is what you control. And the rarest, most envied form of control in this world is not over markets, men, or machinery, it is over one's own mind. The man who controls his thoughts owns the key to all riches, for thought is the architect of circumstance. He who commands thought can create. He who commands emotion can endure. He who commands reaction can rise, even in the midst of collapse. But how few are willing to train? How few are willing to delay gratification in order to master response? How few are willing to build, brick by brick, the internal empire before reaching for the external one? Yet this is the secret every great mind has known. He who seeks to rule must first be ruled by himself. The true millionaire mindset is not rooted in greed, but in governance. Not in accumulation, but in alignment. It is the ability to live by inner law in a world of outer chaos. To remain centered while others spin. To move deliberately while others drift. And that ability, that rare and royal discipline, begins with the training of the invisible. You cannot see your thoughts, but they shape every outcome. You cannot touch your emotions, but they influence every decision. You cannot photograph your habits of attention, but they write the script of your destiny. Therefore, to train your mind is to train your fate. This training requires no classroom. It demands no applause. It does not wait for ideal conditions. It begins the moment you make a vow, a quiet, internal vow to no longer live at the mercy of your feelings. Make that vow now. Say it to yourself not aloud but within. I am no longer a servant to my emotions. I am no longer addicted to reaction. I will think before I feel. I will observe before I engage. I will remain calm while the world loses its mind. I will win because I have decided to command myself. That, my friend, is where transformation begins. No one sees it at first. The world doesn't clap for it. Your old self will resist it. Your emotions will cry out like wild beasts begging to be fed. But you must fast from weakness. You must starve your need for drama. You must silence the inner victim. You must bury the version of you who begged for understanding and resurrect the one who creates it. The path to sovereignty is not loud, it is lonely. You will feel the absence of distraction. You will grieve the noise you once called normal. You will be tempted to return to the comfort of reaction. But don't. Hold your line. Stay with the silence. Because on the other side of that silence is a man the world cannot shake. Let us now speak of a higher law, the law of inner causation. Every outer condition has an inner cause. The man who sees only his outer lack will always blame. The man who understands his inner leakage will rise. When your world is chaotic, your mind is untrained. When your relationships are draining, your boundaries are undefined. When your progress is slow, your discipline is inconsistent. There is no escape from this law. You will either use it or be used by it. You will either harness it or be hammered by it. The man who trains like a millionaire does not ask, "What's wrong out there?" He asks, "What must be corrected in here?" This is not blame, this is ownership. This is not guilt, this is growth. This is not self-punishment, it is self-possession. He corrects his inputs. He reviews his habits. He trims his excess. He questions his thoughts. He revises his beliefs. He polishes his focus. And from this relentless audit of the self-power emerges. Power not given by others, but drawn from within. Now understand this paradox. The more emotional control you develop, the more magnetic you become. People feel your calm before you speak. They respect your presence before you move. They fear wasting your time because you no longer do. This is the invisible aura of the trained mind. It radiates certainty. It invites respect. It enforces standards. It repels nonsense. It speaks less and commands more. Let the world chase validation. Let others beg to be seen. You must become a man that cannot be ignored, not because you're loud, but because you're immovable. You must understand the final weapon of the emotionally detached man, intentional ignorance. Yes, the ability to ignore what doesn't serve your purpose is a weapon. You must learn to ignore gossip, opinion, slander, and noise. Ignore the bait. Ignore the drama. Ignore the need to correct the world. Let fools expose themselves. Let weakness collapse under its own weight. You do not need to interfere. You need only to stay disciplined. Because while they argue, you build. While they spiral, you execute. While they judge, you ascend. The ultimate victory is not in winning every argument, it is in being untouched by them. This is where true wealth is found not in money, but in mental independence. There is no greater luxury than a calm mind, no greater security than inner order, no greater strength than disciplined detachment. So I leave you with this call not to action alone, but to awakening. Do not merely wish for success. Do not merely learn principles. Do not merely repeat quotes. Train. Train your thought like a surgeon trains his hands with precision. Train your emotion like a general trains his troops with order. Train your focus like a sniper trains his sight with clarity. Train your purpose like an emperor guards his empire with zero tolerance for weakness. You were not born to be ruled by what you feel. You were not built to be blown by emotional winds. You were born to rule not others but yourself. And when you do, when you command your own mind, when you possess your own soul, when you govern your own state, then and only then will the world recognize you, not as a man who chases wealth, but as one who becomes it. Not as a man who chases wealth, but as one who becomes it. You see, there is a profound difference between the man who pursues riches and the one who embodies richness. One is a beggar disguised as a businessman reaching for gold to patch the holes in his identity. The other is a sovereign carrying the vibration of wealth long before it touches his hands. The difference is not external, it is internal. And it is this difference that you must etch into the walls of your consciousness. When you train your mind as if you were a millionaire, you stop chasing. You start building. You stop asking for opportunity. You start commanding presence. You stop proving and begin producing. Most men operate from emotional scarcity. They respond to life as though the world is running out of time, attention, validation, and options. They rush. They panic. They force outcomes. They try to manipulate others into giving them what they haven't yet earned from within. But the millionaire mind knows better. It does not chase. It aligns. It does not react. It moves strategically. It does not fight everything. It selects battles worth winning. You must reach this level of sovereignty where your calm is louder than their criticism, your vision clearer than their doubts, and your execution faster than their manipulation. Because you are not just in competition with others, you are in competition with every past version of yourself that tolerated distraction, procrastination, self-doubt, and emotional chaos. The war is not out there. The real war is with your lower self, the untrained, emotionally addicted self that would rather be entertained than elevated. That self must be dethroned. You must become militant about your emotional state. Not obsessive, but intentional. Not anxious, but alert. Not rigid, but rooted. Train your mind like a machine, but fuel it with vision. Train your reactions like a warrior, but lead them with purpose. Train your focus like a laser, but expand it with wisdom. Most people do not fail because they lack intelligence. They fail because their thoughts have no leash. Their minds wander into dead-end alleys, chasing worries, indulging insecurities, reacting to opinions that should have been ignored. They are not stupid, they are undisciplined. They are not incapable, they are unfocused. They are not unlucky, they are untrained. And that, my friend, is good news. Because what is undisciplined can be disciplined. What is scattered can be gathered. What is reactive can be reformed. If you will take the vow not just once but daily to train your mind as if your entire destiny depends on it, because it does, you will begin to experience the rare and liberating power of inner causation. You will begin to see patterns in yourself, the emotional loops, the triggers, the scripts you run. You will no longer be surprised by your reactions. You will predict them, and then you will replace them. You will begin to notice how your moods have been quietly negotiating your standards, how your need for approval has been editing your dreams, how your fears have been writing your future without your permission. And then when you see it all clearly, you will reclaim the pen. You will stop writing your life in response to the past and start authoring it from a place of deliberate vision. That is when true self-command begins. Let me now teach you something hidden known only to those who reach the upper levels of mastery. Your emotions are programmable. You are not born angry, you are not born insecure, you are not born jealous. These are learned responses reinforced by repetition, and what is learned can be unlearned. What is practiced can be repurposed. Emotion is energy, that is all. You assign the meaning. You control the signal. If you have trained yourself to panic when criticized, you can retrain yourself to pause. If you have trained yourself to explode when disrespected, you can retrain yourself to remain composed. If you have trained yourself to quit under pressure, you can retrain yourself to push through with power. And the key to this retraining is not external motivation, it is internal leadership. You must begin to speak to your emotions like a general speaks to his army. You must say, "This is the mission. I will not be moved by insult. I will not be derailed by delay. I will not be infected by doubt. Every time you obey that internal command, you are reprogramming your nervous system to align with greatness. You are rewriting the way you interpret adversity. You are elevating the standard of what you tolerate from yourself. You are signaling to the subconscious that you are now in charge. This is how the millionaire mind is built, not in the marketplace, but in the unseen corridors of inner negotiation. And now we come to one of the most powerful principles of all. You cannot lead anyone until you can lead your own state. The man who trains his mind becomes magnetic, not by charm, but by centeredness. People do not trust emotional instability. They may pity it, they may tolerate it, but they will never follow it. But a man who speaks without needing validation, who acts without needing applause, who can face adversity with unbroken calm, that man, that man is irresistible. Because that man makes others feel safe, not by protecting them, but by demonstrating that chaos does not own him. You must become that man. You must become the calm in the storm, the eye in the hurricane, the axis in a world that spins without balance. And you must train this daily, not in moments of peace, but especially in moments of pressure. You will be tested by delay, betrayal, disrespect, isolation, misunderstanding. These are not punishments, they are invitations. Every delay is an invitation to train patience. Every betrayal is an invitation to train boundaries. Every insult is an invitation to train neutrality. Every failure is an invitation to train accuracy. This is the true curriculum of the self-made mind. Pain becomes a professor. Conflict becomes a course. Detachment becomes the diploma. And when you graduate from the school of emotional detachment, you will no longer fight for control. You are control. And the world will bend not because you forced it, but because you no longer need it to move. You have become a force in yourself. That is wealth. That is influence. That is the millionaire mind, trained, tempered, and transcendent. That is the millionaire mind trained, tempered, and transcendent. You do not arrive at this state through comfort. You arrive by going to war with your weaknesses and emerging victorious. You arrive by facing the battlefield of your inner world and planting a flag of sovereignty where chaos once ruled. You do not get there by accident. You get there by ritual, by waking up before the sun and commanding your thoughts before they command you, by writing your goals with ink, not emotion, by keeping your promises to yourself long after the mood that made them has died. You get there by saying no more than you say yes. No to distraction. No to ego. No to drama. No to mediocrity dressed up as comfort. Because every no is a yes to your higher self. You get there by watching your mind the way a king guards his throne. You do not let just any thought sit beside your purpose. You do not let just any mood dine at the table of your attention. You do not let just any weakness interrupt your silence. Because your silence is sacred. It is the soil where vision grows. Most men are loud when they lack direction, but the man of purpose, he is quiet, not out of fear, but out of force. His silence says more than their speeches. His stillness shakes the very room. His restraint roars louder than their reactions. He has no need to explain. His results do the speaking. He has no need to rush. His presence does the persuading. He has no need to argue. His clarity is already a victory. Let others flinch. Let others gossip. Let others collapse under the weight of small minds. You must rise. You must train. You must decide not once, but forever. You must decide that you will no longer be pulled by passing emotions, that your mind is not a public playground, that your energy is not up for auction, that your vision cannot be rented by the hour. This is your domain, your sovereignty, your sanctuary, and you will not allow it to be trespassed by the untrained, the unfocused, or the undisciplined. Because when you truly train your mind as if you were a millionaire, you become more than wealthy. You become dangerous. Dangerous to excuses. Dangerous to mediocrity. Dangerous to your old identity. You become untouchable not because the world changes, but because you have. And the world, sensing that you no longer need its approval, bends. You no longer need the crowd because you've found conviction. You no longer need applause because you've chosen alignment. You no longer need certainty because you walk with command. This, this is the final form of mastery. To be free inside, to be calm in chaos, to be unmoved by insult, to be patient with results, to be ruthless with your standards, to be faithful to your vision even in the silence. And when that day comes, when your mind obeys your voice, your emotions follow your mission, and your reality begins to mirror your resolve, you will know the world did not give you your power. The world cannot take it away because you built it where no one could see, in the chamber of your own will. So go now. Go and train your mind like a man who no longer fears himself. Train like one who refuses to be ordinary. Train like the architect of his own fate. Train like the general of his own army. Train like a millionaire because you are one. Not in possession, in identity, not in appearance, in power. And when the world finally sees what you've built in silence, it will not understand. But it will respect you because the man who rules himself rules everything.